on this earth to do, right? And that's really where company story is important. And I bring up company story also in the context of a lot of people, unfortunately put a lot of pressure on themselves in this course to come up with like this brilliant product idea. And I think the word innovation can trip people up. That's why I constantly say it's just an idea that's really important to you and to your organization, right? And that idea can be something that sounds kind of stale or boring, like a process, but that process that you have to implement is not only going to make your employees' lives more efficient and they will be happier as a result, but it's also going to impact the business in a big way down the road, right? And so change is hard, particularly when the idea is an internal one. And to rally people around adopting change, one, you want to talk about how it's going to benefit them, right? So they're the user, and this is I've heard you. I know this is a concern, but trust that this is actually going to give you hours back in your day or whatever it might be. And by the way, like as a reminder, here's why you decided to come work here, right? Because we stand for this, and this is where we're going. And by adopting this thing, you are actually going to help us. You are going to get us there faster than if we did not do this thing, right? So it's a way to really think about, especially from a CEO or senior executive level perspective, how do you convince those to adopt change when change is inherently hard and there's natural resistance?
Mm-hmm.
And certainly when you're introducing an opportunity to a customer, first and foremost, they want to know, like, how does this make my life better? But then you also want to remind them, so that they don't get distracted by every digital prompt that interrupts every moment of our day, that your company stands for something even greater than this particular thing that you're doing for them. And so you want to remind them of that as well in
Mm-hmm.
that approach. So it's really as simple as like, hey, I've got an idea and here's why it's important. And it's important because of this user or this group of users. And it's important because this really fits like a glove in terms of who we are as a company and where we're headed directionally. And that's
Mm-hmm.
as it gets. And I think that we can probably do make different efforts to articulate that, within the modules and playbooks. And we're constantly writing down notes from those who have gone through the course to think about how to make something like this, where there's a lot of self-teaching, right, and sort of self-motivating around this, a bit easier to decipher and digest, so that those first submissions are on point rather than having to go back and iterate in a pretty dramatic way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good.
Well, Josh, this is Janet. Eureka! That is the first time I've gotten it. This is my second go around also. And I just kept saying, especially in our chair meetings, it just feels like the word innovation's like been snuck in there. It really doesn't have much to do with the rest. And really, these guys really need to get a good, compelling company story, really focus on the user and work, outside in.
No, my pleasure. And I think, the reason for the word innovation is that we want people to appreciate that something that feels small has big impact, right?
Yes.
At the same time, it can intimidate people because, oh, you say innovation, I need to go into a mad scientist lab and come up with, like
Google. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not it at all. In fact, I had a coaching call last week with someone in the Southern California group, and he and his fiance have taken over a company, and they're at a critical stage where they're trying to pivot. And his innovation is really a positioning exercise to sort of orient the company on who they are now and where they want to head. And in his mind, he was psyching himself out. He's like, so I need to come up with a new product line, I feel like, for this course. And I said, oh, gosh, no. Like, your innovation is the idea that you need to be adopted and to get off the ground for you to be able to move, the company ball forward. And that was a big aha for him. He was like, oh, like a positioning statement isn't the sexiest thing, but man, do we have to get that right? And so this and these modules will help him now that he's oriented the right way. So I'm glad that you had an aha moment.
Well, it'd be nice if just that plain English you just put it in that business people can understand was like when we first had our intro to this course, just play that back. She just
Okay.
Stop recording. Pause.